went on a road trip with my boyfriend to the neighboring province, and he said we'd pick up a friend along the way. We picked up this friend halfway, and sure enough, it was his childhood buddy. She walked to the car and directly opened the front passenger door. Friend, I get a bit car sick. Do you mind if I sit in the front? I moved to the back seat and listened to her reminiscing about their lives from age 1 to 22. Over and over again. In the middle of the night, my boyfriend said his buddy's mother had fallen during the night and he needed to drive her back. After he left, I was bored and scrolling through WeChat Moments, and saw that his buddy had posted a photo of my boyfriend driving, with the caption, "The person who loves you is the one who hears you say you want hot pot from the place near your home in the middle of the night and will drive across a province to take you there." Chapter 1. The lively scene of the Ning group's succession ceremony. Today, I will take over the Ning family business that my mother founded single-handedly. In the center of the stage, I linked arms with my fiancé, Philip, smiling at the guests. Suddenly, I heard my father announce, "The next heir of the Ning Corporation is Mr. Philip." A round of enthusiastic applause erupted from the audience. I looked at Philip in disbelief as he slowly walked towards my father and accepted the CEO's office key. A symbol of power. Their smiles were dazzling under the lights. Before I could ask, the new generation starlet Camila walked up and affectionately took Philip's hand. On this joyous day, I have another happy announcement. I am going to marry Miss Camila. I met her beaming smile, but she suddenly turned red-eyed and choked up. Joanna, during the 3 years you took Philip away, I cried myself to sleep every day. But fortunately, Philip and I overcame all obstacles and ended up together. I have already forgiven you, and you must come to our wedding. Before I could react, a team of professionals suddenly rushed out and surrounded me. Ms. Joanna, based on the joint report by your father and Mr. Philip, you are suspected of being involved in a large-scale money laundering case. Please come with us to assist in the investigation. The originally lively atmosphere instantly froze, and the guests looked at each other, causing quite a stir. They all said, "Miss Camila's crying is truly heartbreaking, but it's understandable. Anyone would react this way if their lover was taken away for 3 years. Miss Ning seems to have a decent character, but it's surprising that she would do such a thing. It just goes to show you never really know someone." Mr. Pablo's expression was one of hatred, wasn't it? In a way, he was doing a great service by eliminating a threat for the greater good. If Monica Ning's spirit in heaven knew about the disgraceful things her daughter had done, she would probably be so furious that her coffin lid couldn't hold her down. When they were taken away, I saw the 3 of them on stage, their figures hidden in the shadows through the crowd. Camila came to see me just after I had undergone an interrogation, an innocent face full of smugness. "Joanna, I never thought you'd see this day. How does it feel to lose everything?" She suddenly burst into laughter and continued, "Your father betrayed you. Your boyfriend doesn't love you. And you'll spend the rest of your life in here. Don't worry, I'll live a good life in your place. Your money and your love will all be mine." Through the glass, her face became distorted. My vision gradually blurred, and I clenched my teeth and fists tightly. It was my poor judgment of character that led to being schemed against. If I get the chance, I'll drag them all to hell, and then crush them underfoot. Chapter 2. When I opened my eyes again, I was sitting in the back of the car. Philip was driving, and Camila was sitting in the passenger seat, chattering about something. "Philip, do you remember? That time you climbed over the wall to buy me a birthday cake. It was such a big surprise. When I returned to the classroom, I saw the cake, and my classmates teased me, asking which suitor sent it. I said, of course, it was my childhood friend. They all praised you as a good man." I was stunned for 2 seconds at the scene before me. It turned out to be this day when my boyfriend Philip and I were on a road trip to the neighboring province, and he said we could conveniently bring along his childhood friend Camila, recalling the past life. At first, I only regarded her as Philip's next-door little sister, and because of Philip, I took extra care of this younger sister. Seeing her made me especially happy, thinking that I had a sister to talk to on this journey. However, she smiled and walked straight to the car, opening the passenger door. "Older sister, I feel a bit car sick. Do you mind if I sit in the front seat? In the previous life, I was truly foolish. unable to hear the deeper meaning in her words, and even concernedly asked if she needed motion sickness medicine. And now, listening to her recall for the nth time their ages from 1 to 22, I let out a derisive laugh. Sister, what's wrong? Nothing. I was just moved by your relationship with Philip. Hearing my words, a blush appeared on Camila's innocent face, and even Philip beside her seemed a bit embarrassed. But I have a question. I changed the subject, asking curiously, you two grew up together and have such a good relationship. Why aren't you together? Camila lowered her head and pursed her lips, her eyes glancing towards Philip. He was avoiding eye contact, stammering and unable to speak. "Ah, I understand now," I said, suddenly realizing, it must be that Philip doesn't fancy you. After all, you've been childhood friends for so many years. It's too familiar to make a move. Your steadfast revolutionary friendship truly moves me. Camila's face gradually turned pale, and Philip's expression didn't look good either. What nonsense are you spouting? He reprimanded discontentedly. You've really been given too much face. I thought coldly, fiercely kicking the backrest with my toe, and said in a deep voice, "Stop the car. What are you doing?" Philip didn't move, so I kicked the seat hard again. He frowned, his face ashen, and pulled the car over to the side of the road. I slowly got out of the car and then walked straight to the passenger seat. "Get out," I commanded directly. "Sister, I'm car sick," Camila said pitifully. Before she could finish, I coldly repeated, I said, "Get out." She looked tearfully at Philip, only to see the veins bulging on Philip's forehead as he angrily said, "Joanna, what right do you have to make Camila get out?" "What right?" I directly opened the car door and dragged Camila out, my gaze icy. "Because this car is mine." Then said to Camila again, "Get to the back." Philip clenched his fists but then released them powerlessly, while Camila sobbed and got into the back seat. Gradually, the sound of Camila's quiet crying came, along with Philip's soft reassurance, saying he was just in a bad mood today. Her crying gave me a headache, so I turned around and scolded, "If you keep crying, get out of the car." She looked at the deep mountains and forests outside the window, reluctantly stopping her tears. Finally, it was quiet. Chapter 3. I'm not afraid of Philip turning against me because he simply doesn't dare. He still needs to rely on me for promotions, raises, and crossing class barriers. In a past life, he relied on me to secure a decent position at Ning Corporation, but I never expected him to collude with my cowardly father. The two of them are truly birds of a feather, both climbing the ladder by stepping on women. He has always been a cowardly nice guy, although not very capable. At least he was good to my mother. I never imagined that beneath the facade of a nice guy was a mind full of schemes. Perhaps he started plotting how to take over Ning Corporation right after my mother's death. Thinking about my mother's death, a sharp pain pierces my heart. If I could go back a little earlier, maybe my mother wouldn't have died. Lost in thought, I arrived at the destination without realizing it, not wanting to witness their nauseating display. I asked the front desk to book 3 rooms. Camila directly took Philip's room card, shyly smiling, and said, "Philip, I'll come to see you tonight." A wave of disgust washed over me, and I hurried into my room to close the door. Sitting by the window looking at the sea, I suddenly heard the sound of flirtatious banter from the couple next door. Unable to resist, I rolled my eyes and took out my phone to create a group chat with Camila and Philip, sending a message, "Keep it down a bit. Even the kittens downstairs are getting frisky." Philip quickly explained that they were playing a board game and invited me to join them. Feeling nauseated repeatedly, I turned off my phone screen, just wanting to sleep quickly. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by a notification sound from my phone. Philip sent a message saying that Camila's mother had fallen during the night and possibly fractured a bone. Camila was very worried about her mother's condition, and he needed to drive her back. I casually replied with a 1, and after being woken up, I couldn't fall back asleep, so I started scrolling through my WeChat Moments. As I scrolled, I saw a recent post from Camila. "The person who loves you is the one who hears you say you want hot pot from the place near your home in the middle of the night and will drive across a province to take you there." The picture was of Philip driving the car, with her sitting in the passenger seat. Taking a deep breath, I typed furiously and commented below, "What? Did your mistress mother fall to her death? That indeed calls for a hot pot celebration." Then I took a screenshot and sent it to Philip's family group, adding a line, "Philip, have you cheated? Camila's mother mingled among wealthy businessmen, serving as their mistress, and those men even gave her the nickname Farong. This was a secret within the circle, and I only learned about it by chance in my previous life. This also led to Camila being born without knowing who her biological father was. Farong considered her a burden and left her with relatives in the countryside. In a past life, I listened to Camila recount how, due to her mother, she was disliked by relatives and was insulted as a little whore born of a whore. She cried and firmly declared that she was not like her mother. At that time, I felt sorry for her, thinking that one cannot choose their birth, and she was innocent. Now that I think about it, like mother, like daughter. However, these are not things I should be concerned with at this critical moment. When I checked my phone, I saw that Camila had already deleted that post from her circle of friends. Afraid, aren't you? The foreplay has just begun. Chapter 4. In just a few minutes, the group chat exploded. Philip's parents and all his relatives started criticizing him. "Philip, what's going on with you? Miss Ning is such a wonderful person, and you don't appreciate her. Why are you messing around with Camila? Hurry up and apologize to Miss Ning. Say you won't do it again. And as for Camila, I know she's been pestering you. You need to make things clear with her. Miss Ning." Philip was just momentarily confused. Please forgive him this time. I know they support me not out of fairness, but because Philip promised them considerable benefits once he ascends to the Ning Corporation. They cling to Philip like leeches, just as Philip clings to me. In a panic, Philip hurriedly came out to explain. I did take Camila back to visit my injured mother, but on the way, she said she wanted to eat hot pot. That post on Circle of Friends was indeed inappropriate, and I've already talked to her about it. Camila has since deleted it. Immediately following was a voice message from Camila, weakly crying, "Joanna, it's my fault. I apologize to you. You can scold me or hit me, but don't blame Philip. He was just trying to help." I ignored it and directly made a video call. On the other side, there was a flustered answer, and the sound of clothes rustling could be vaguely heard. "Philip, give her a slap." In the video, both he and Camila showed expressions of shock. "Didn't you say I could scold or hit you? Since I'm not there, let Philip do it for me," I explained. She cried even louder, throwing herself into Philip's arms. Philip, holding back his anger, said, "Joanna, that's enough. Camila has already apologized. Why do you have to be so aggressive?" "All right," I curled my lips and added, "if hitting isn't allowed, then at least scolding should be, right?" Camila looked at me with tear-filled eyes and said, "If this can make Joanna feel better." As more and more people joined the group video, the audience was ready. I stared at her intently, word by word. "Camila, you're just a little bitch born from a bitch." Chapter 5. The color drained from her rosy cheeks in an instant, but I directly hung up the video call. "Camila, consider this slap a debt you owe." After being interrupted by them, I lost the mood to continue traveling, so I packed up my things and prepared to go home. The day I returned home, I went to the Ning group. Pablo was sitting in the high office chair, hands crossed, looking at me with a familiar gentle smile on his face. "Joanna, how was your trip?" Through his smile, I seemed to see that loving father. He once, like any ordinary father, smiled and said I was his treasure. When did it change? It seems that after all, it's only because he's a stepfather, so there's no blood bond. Seeing him, my heart ached, but I still wanted to give him a chance. Perhaps, I thought to myself, perhaps he was deceived by Philip. "Father, I want to start learning to take over the business of Ning Corporation." I didn't miss the fleeting impatience in his eyes. "Joanna, such a large enterprise. Learning to manage it is very challenging," he said, switching back to his usual tenderness. Speaking softly, "My precious daughter doesn't need to learn these things. She just needs to be healthy and happy." He said these words in his past life too. At that time, I thought it was a father's beautiful blessing to his daughter. But I didn't realize it was a curse. The Ning Corporation will eventually be handed over to me. I stared straight into his eyes and said, "Don't you agree, father?" Pablo lowered his eyes in silence, then soon smiled and said with relief, "My dear daughter has finally grown up. Well done, well done. You already have shares in the Ning Corporation, so it's only right for you to be here. How about this? You start working at the Ning Corporation tomorrow and spend some time learning from Joel. Joel is his assistant, and I know he wants me to do menial tasks." But I still smiled and said, "Thank you, father." Pablo, I won't let my mother's hard work fall into your hands. In the evening, I arranged to meet friends at the bar. "Joanna, what's been going on with you lately?" a friend asked, holding a wine glass, her face full of concern. "I feel like you've changed from before. If anything happens, you must tell me." It's no wonder she said that. In my past life, whenever I went out with her, I was always glued to my phone, waiting for Philip's messages. "It's nothing. I've just figured out a lot of things." Only then did my friend feel relieved. "By the way, I need your help with something." I turned to her and whispered the plan in her ear. "Huh? Is this even possible?" Her eyes were full of shock. "I can manage it. But Joanna, are you sure you want to do this?" I nodded at her, and my friend took a deep breath and started laughing too. Chapter 6. As expected, Pablo would never let me get involved with the core business of Ning Corporation. Every day, I run errands following Joel, and occasionally when I see him, he pretends to encourage me, marveling at how this once pampered heiress, who never lifted a finger, is now hands-on and busy, reminding him of my mother. He spoke about his mother with deep affection, and I swallowed my disgust, telling myself to endure a little longer. Soon, I got the opportunity one was waiting for. That day, Pablo was hosting a top company executive, hoping to facilitate a collaboration between Ning Corporation and them. I asked Joel to let me into the meeting room to deliver water. Seeing how diligently I had been working with him these past few days, he nodded in agreement. As soon as I entered the meeting room, I heard the project agenda had reached a tense point, and the executive, Tom, asked, "Mr. Chan, if Ning Corporation can't show sincerity, it will be difficult for me to proceed." Just as Pablo was about to say something, I swiftly placed the proposal in Tom's hand. "Tom, could you take another look at this proposal? Not bad. This is exactly the project plan I wanted." After reading it, Tom praised it repeatedly and then looked at me. "And you are?" "I am Joanna, MS, Monica's daughter," I replied with composure. "No wonder. You look a lot like your mother." Tom suddenly realized, she is an outstanding entrepreneur. Truly, each generation surpasses the last. "You have her demeanor from back then." I nodded with a smile, completely ignoring Pablo's unpleasant expression beside me. "We need young people like you for this project, so you'll be in charge of the follow-up," Tom decisively concluded. Finalizing the collaboration, Pablo gritted his teeth and left with the words, "Joanna has really grown up," before storming out. That day, to celebrate securing the partnership, I specially brought a bouquet of my mother's favorite lisianthus to visit her. "Mom, I am gradually getting the hang of the business at Ning Corporation. Rest assured, I won't let your hard work fall into anyone else's hands. Mom, Joanna has grown up and can face things on her own now. I won't let a single villain get away. Mom, I miss you." I put down the flowers, forced back the bitterness, blinked away my tears, and left, then arranged for a private detective to investigate some matters. When I returned home in the evening, I heard the sound of men and women chatting and laughing inside the house, and I immediately felt uneasy. Pushing the door open, Camila smiled and picked up a piece of jade, asking Philip if it looked good. My mind buzzed. That was my mother's heirloom. "Give it to me." I reached out to her, commanding coldly. "Joanna, you're so fierce." Camila pouted, feeling wronged. "I'll give it back to you." I hurriedly prepared to take it, but her hand gave a slight shake, and the jade fell to the ground with a crack, shattering into several pieces. My tears fell suddenly. My mother, shattered. In an instant, I felt cold all over, my mind filled with the day my mother had a car accident. Shattered like jade, I picked up the vase and smashed it towards Camila, grabbing her collar fiercely, and screamed hysterically, "Camila, go to hell!" Camila let out a scream, trying to dodge, and Philip quickly came over to pull me away. "Joanna, calm down. It's just a piece of jade. We'll compensate you." I let out a cold laugh, turned around, picked up the fruit knife on the table, and pressed it against his neck. "Then you can go to hell together." The blade gradually drew blood. Philip struggled desperately, and Camila was already petrified, frozen in place. My heart was full of rage, and I was on the verge of losing my mind, only wanting to drag these two bastards to hell with me. Suddenly seeing the jade fragments on the ground, I gradually calmed down. Mom would never want me to become like this. It's not worth it for them. I threw the knife to the ground, pointed at the door, and shouted at them, "Get out!" The two of them supported each other and fled in panic. After they left, I collapsed to the ground, crawling towards the shards with tear-filled eyes, carefully picking them up, and softly said, "Mom." Chapter 7. The next day, I found someone to repair the jade. Even though I was generous with my funding, they could only promise to do their best. I was seething with hatred, unable to bear the thought of delaying my revenge for even a moment. That afternoon, I slammed the test report onto the table. "I'm pregnant." Philip's eyes first showed confusion, then delight. "That's wonderful, Joanna. So when are we getting married?" I know he's eager to become the son-in-law of the Ning Corporation and is ready to carve up the Ning Corporation. I'm happy to oblige him. After all, the higher he climbs, the harder he falls. Marriage is possible, but first, you need to deal with Camila. "Joanna, I told you I only see Camila as a sister." Philip showed a helpless expression and said affectionately, "You have always been the only one in my heart." "Then what do you call your previous entanglement with her?" "She was the one who insisted on clinging to me." Seeing Philip's evasive eyes, I sneered in my heart. "I don't want to hear your side of the story." I opened the door, let the puzzled Camila in, and said with a smile, "You can explain it to her yourself." "Philip, what's going on?" Her voice was as gentle as ever. "I'm going to marry Philip." I deliberately leaned close to Philip and said warmly, "What?" Camila's eyes widened instantly, tears welling up as she looked at Philip and asked, "Is this true, Philip? Why are you crying?" "It's not like I'm not sending you an invitation." I continued to fan the flames, and Camila turned to glare at me fiercely. "Philip, say something." I turned my head to look at Philip, and said innocently, "Didn't you say you only saw her as a sister?" Camila's face looked even worse, a fragile appearance on the verge of collapse. "Joanna, does it have to be this way?" "Philip, if you don't sort out these ambiguous friends of yours, don't even think about entering the Ning family's door." His face was gloomy, his expression displeased, and his hands were tightly clenched as if he was enduring something. "Camila, listen to me. I've never had any other intentions towards you. It was a misunderstanding before, but now I'm getting married, so let's not keep in touch anymore." In the end, he still spoke out, and Camila collapsed to the ground upon hearing it, unable to hold back her tears. A fleeting expression of heartache crossed Philip's face as he wanted to help her. He cautiously looked into my eyes, forcibly stopped himself, took a deep breath, and said, "Joanna, I've done as you said. Is this enough?" "Very good," I said with a smile. "Then let's settle the next account. Camila, you broke my jade. 25 million. Pay up." Chapter 8. "What?" Camila exclaimed in shock. "How could it be that expensive?" I threw the appraisal report in her face. Camila opened it and saw the final price, her hands trembling uncontrollably, tears welling up as she looked at Philip. "Joanna, Camila's family background is not as good as yours. She can't afford it." Philip's voice was low, yet he couldn't help but plead. "Joanna, let's just forget about it. After all, it's just a small amount of money to you." With a contemptuous smile on my lips, I walked over to Camila, grabbed her hair, and pulled her up, watching her show a pitiful look of begging for mercy. "Sure," I smiled faintly. "Philip, give her a slap, and this matter will be over." "Camila, I told you, you still owe me a slap. I don't want to do it myself." Watching a dogfight is much more interesting. Besides, I know how to deliver the most painful blow to her. The harm from a pillow partner is the most lethal. For a moment, both of them were stunned. Camila could no longer maintain her pure facade. Her face twisted with ugly jealousy as she said, "Joanna, you will die a miserable death. Don't worry, you'll definitely die before me." Seeing the coldness in Philip's eyes, I gritted my teeth, my throat moving up and down. I picked up the small knife on the table, smiling gently. "If you don't make a move, then I'll do it myself." Perhaps it was the knife in my hand that frightened him. Or maybe it was the memory of my last frenzied appearance. From Philip's clenched jaw came a sentence. I promise you." Camila's eyes widened as she watched Philip shake his head repeatedly, saying no. "Camila, don't blame me." Philip closed his eyes tightly, not daring to look at her. "If I don't hear a sound, we'll have to start over." I continued to apply pressure. Philip opened his eyes to look directly at Camila, his eyes filled with reluctance. Suddenly, he took a deep breath and swiftly raised his right hand. With a loud smack, he gave the other person a resounding slap. Camila was knocked to the ground by his slap, her head hitting the corner of the table with a dull thud, and her cheek instantly swelled and reddened. Her hair was disheveled, and her eyes were filled with tears of humiliation. Philip's nails dug into his palms, and his breathing became rapid and erratic. I laughed heartily, took pictures of their embarrassing state, and then left. Chapter 9. For several days in a row, Philip treated me with gentle care. One moment he asked if the child was troublesome. The next he asked when I would get married. He knew that after I had gained a foothold at Ning Corporation, he was already a bit impatient. I was also happy to give him a taste of success first by placing him in a leisurely yet lucrative department at Ning Corporation. However, I arranged for him to have a demanding supervisor who constantly made things difficult for him and mocked him both openly and subtly. At the same time, I also arranged for a so-called investor to tell him that they could do big business together. Everything was going according to plan, except for a photo the detective sent me. I frowned as I looked at the photo of Camila and Pablo walking into a hotel together. I underestimated her. She could stomach even this. Pablo is truly still vigorous despite his age. After some serious contemplation, I thought it might be a good idea to make use of it. I opened WeChat and found Camila. I sent her a photo of a sumptuous and nutritious lunch, with the caption, "Philip personally made this for me. Ever since I got pregnant, he has been by my side, taking care of me, afraid that something might happen to me or the baby. Philip is truly a great father. Now it's up to Camila. I hope you won't let me down." Then I found the detective and asked him to find a way to take more evidence, preferably the kind from the bed, and included a considerable amount of compensation for emotional distress. When Camila approached me, looking smug, I thought to myself, "You really didn't disappoint me, Joanna. Don't be so smug. I'm already pregnant with Philip's child, and he'll soon change his mind." I calculated the time in my mind, and this child is most likely my brother or sister. This is because during that time, Philip was busy dealing with investors, while my ever-ambitious father claimed to be on vacation. Moreover, I have various videos sent by the detective. "Is that so? Then I can only wish you success," I said, looking meaningfully at her belly. In the evening, when talking about these interesting stories with her friends, she laughed so hard that her big teeth showed, and she couldn't stop laughing. "Oh my gosh, that cracked me up." She gestured with exaggerated movements, laughing so hard she couldn't straighten up. After a while, she asked, "So what are you planning to do next?" "Let her give birth." Her friend showed a puzzled expression, then suddenly realized and said, "You're really ruthless. But aren't you afraid that this brother or sister will compete with you for the family inheritance in the future?" She asked worriedly after thinking for a while. "Am I really afraid of a child?" I sneered, speaking slowly. "Besides, this is Pablo's child, who will take the surname Chan in the future, not Ning. By the way, did you finish what I asked you to do? When I do things, you can rest assured." As she spoke, she took out a medical consultation slip from her bag. The patient was Joanna, and it was issued by a well-known private hospital chain in the country. "That is a property of a friend's family. The diagnosis on the consultation slip read, pregnancy termination. Chapter 10. That night, I took a photo of the consultation slip and sent it to Philip, followed by a message. Philip, I already know about Camila's pregnancy. I've already terminated the pregnancy. I wish you both happiness. Then his call came through. Joanna. Let me explain. The child was just an accident. That night I was just drunk. Why do you only care about Camila's child? What about ours? Joanna. Philip said painfully. I'm also very sad that our child is gone. There will be more children in the future. As long as we don't separate. There will be more. He continued to plead. Forgive me this once, okay? In the future. I swirled the red wine in my glass, feeling only amused inside. He wasn't trying to win me back. He was clearly trying to salvage his easily attainable future. He wanted to say something more, but the rustling sound of Camila's voice came through, seemingly mentioning Ning Corporation's boss. Philip suddenly stopped speaking and said in a deep voice, If you insist on this, then let's just leave it at that. No, I coldly refused. What? His puzzled voice came through. Philip, I've dumped you. Let's break up. After saying that, I hung up the phone directly. Then I took out my phone, found the investor, and told him to speed up the process. If my guess is correct, the reason Philip agreed so readily is that he's already teamed up with Pablo. Camila is quite capable, playing two men like puppets at the same time. She can even get a man to spend money to launch her career, just to fulfill her dream of becoming a star. It seems I need to move my plan forward as well. For the next 2 months, I practically lived at the company, busy getting involved with the Ning Corporation project. Also, gathering evidence against Pablo. After a few days of investigation, I discovered that Pablo had a large transaction a few years ago. The recipient was an overseas account, and Pablo's transaction note was purchase of new equipment. But upon closer examination, I found that the equipment purchase at that time didn't require that much money. At first, I thought it was just a simple case of embezzlement, until I saw some evidence sent by the hacker. As I watched, I started laughing, then suddenly froze, and burst into laughter again. Pablo, I want you to pay with your life. I laughed and laughed until I cried. Chapter 11. At the latest shareholders meeting, I presented my mother's will. According to my mother, Ms. Monica's wishes, I will inherit her shares after her death. Since then, I have had enough influence in the Ning Corporation. Looking at Pablo's darkened face below, he probably never dreamed I would get hold of this will. How could Ms. Monica, who has battled in the business world for half her life, not see the disloyalty of her pillow partner? When I was just 10 years old, my mother took out the will and solemnly said, "A woman must have power in her hands to avoid being bullied." Now, I am handing the power over to you. In my past life, I trusted Pablo, this seemingly loving father, and never took out the will, allowing them to distribute my mother's shares. This time, I will reclaim everything I lost. Looking at the latest information sent by the detective, I curled my lips into a smile. You three have truly given me quite a surprise. For a long time afterward, Pablo and I engaged in a battle of wits at work while patiently waiting for Camila's child to be born. Upon learning that she had recently given birth to a baby boy, I breathed a sigh of relief. Soon, I knew my opportunity had arrived. It was the first award Camila received after her debut, one whose significance only her fans would believe. Since her debut, she had been publicly dating Philip, who held an executive title at Ning Corporation, attracting a large following of CP fans. Philip's profile still featured a photo of her and the child, and they were dubbed the golden couple by fans. At the award ceremony, Camila spoke with teary eyes about her struggles, then suddenly changed her tone. I also want to thank someone. If Joanna hadn't taken Philip away for these 3 years, we wouldn't have realized our love for each other so quickly. Then her fans started to dig into who this Joanna was, and discovered it was me, the young lady of the Ning family. Then they began to besiege me. For those few days, the company's official blog was filled with comments like "Joanna, the mistress, deserves a bad end." My friend cursed and joined the fray, angrily saying, "How can you tolerate this?" They insult me just because I'm a woman and think I'm easy to bully. If I were a man, this would be considered a romantic escapade. I said calmly, opened my phone to collect evidence of the online insults, and sent it to the legal department. However, I will let them know that people in high positions, whether male or female, are not to be trifled with. It's time. Then I contacted several media outlets and announced the news. Miss Ning of the Ning family will hold a press conference tomorrow to address the recent online rumors. Chapter 12. Ning Corporation Press Conference Site. I stood on the stage looking at the three people seated, as if I had returned to the turning point of fate in my past life. The reporters scrambled to ask malicious questions, most of which revolved around the topic of mistress. I smiled faintly without speaking and projected the video onto the big screen. Everything you want to know is here. The audience immediately erupted into chaos. The projection showed evidence of Philip cheating with Camila during our relationship. Both of them looked grim, but the real drama was yet to come. Next was a censored, unsightly video, but this time the protagonists were not them. It was Camila and Pablo. The crowd went wild, and the reporters hurried to capture the scene amidst the chaos. Philip stood up directly, his eyes wide open as he looked at her, his lips trembling slightly as he restrained his inner fury. These videos are all fabricated. Camila's eyes were red and swollen. It's all Joanna's doing to harm me, instructing the bodyguards to hold back the crowd and maintain order. I calmly walked up to them. Is that so? Seeing the mockery in my eyes, Camila had a vague sense of foreboding, but I smiled and tossed the report to them. It was a paternity report of the baby boy and Pablo, confirming their father-son relationship. You bitch! Philip, enraged, slapped her directly. Pablo was somewhat surprised, not expecting to have a child at his age. He helped Camila up and then said to Philip, Philip, young people need to be patient. Camila lay in Pablo's arms, crying pitifully. It seemed she abandoned her old love and turned to Pablo as soon as the affair was exposed. This is impossible. This is fake. Philip's face turned ashen, and he pulled Camila over. Come with me to do another paternity test. I'm afraid you won't have the chance. Watching the professionals suddenly emerge, I smiled faintly. Mr. Philip, you are suspected of an economic crime. Please come with us. He was powerlessly taken away, his eyes full of fear. Suddenly, as if he remembered something. It's you, Joanna. You framed me. Watching him roar in fury, I mocked. If it weren't for your own greed, how would you have taken the bait? After they left, Camila trembled and dared not look at me, while Pablo held back his impatience and said, Enough, Joanna. Things have gotten big enough. Seeing his hypocritical appearance, the anger I had been holding back finally exploded, and I swung a punch directly at him. Don't rush. You're next. You old thing. He widened his eyes in disbelief as he looked at me. I threw the evidence of his hired murder right in his face. Watching his astonished expression, I choked up and said, Pablo, go serve my mother like a beast of burden. His legs trembled slightly, and his breathing was rapid, as if a giant hand was gripping his throat. Upon learning that Monica intended to leave all the family assets to their daughter, disregarding any marital ties, he was unwilling to let his efforts go to waste. And thus, murderous intent arose. When he was dragged away, his aged face was full of despair. Wait. I calmed myself, stopped him, tossed another paternity test over, and said calmly, Take a look for yourself. He instinctively tensed his muscles, and when he saw it was a paternity test, his pupils slightly dilated as he looked in Camila's direction. Camila's eyes were also filled with terror, as if she had some suspicion, holding her head and murmuring, Impossible. After seeing the contents clearly, Pablo burst into hysterical laughter. No wonder. No wonder. Furong. It's Furong. Camila crouched down, curling into a ball, her body occasionally twitching, emitting cries of agony. Every breath she took was filled with deep despair, her heart sobbing and tearing apart. As she screamed hoarsely, This is fake! I felt an indescribable sense of relief. Mom, they all went to hell. You will be proud of me too, won't you? Chapter 13. When Philip was imprisoned, Pablo's verdict was also delivered. Looking at the verdict, I showed a relieved smile. Pablo, I told you I would make you pay with your life. The day of the execution was the last time I saw him. His eyes were full of exhaustion, his movements slow, like a truly aged old man. When he saw me, a flash of resentment crossed his eyes. Then he weakly said, "Joanna, Camila, she really is." Knowing the disgusting words he was about to say, I quickly interrupted and punched him again. "Go down and repent to my mother." Next was Philip. Through the glass, we looked at each other from afar. "Joanna, how dare you plot against me?" he roared as soon as he came up. "So what?" I smiled indifferently. "You are allowed to scheme against Ning Corporation with all your calculations. And I can't fight back? It's just the law of the jungle. So our relationship was fake too?" My stomach churned violently. Feeling nauseous, I rolled my eyes and quickly left. "Philip, you ask about our relationship? It died in a past life." As soon as I stepped out, I saw a message from a friend pop up, saying they organized a gathering at a bar to celebrate my new life. I smiled and replied with, "On my way." Coincidentally, Nurse Wu from the psychiatric hospital sent a message saying that Camila had sneaked out again this afternoon, holding a kitten's corpse in the backyard, rocking it and cooing baby. I felt a pang of sorrow in my heart. Your baby couldn't bear the shock and was strangled. Thinking of that child, I couldn't help but wonder, if they were alive, would they call me older sister or aunt? The atmosphere in the bar was intense. Congratulations to our MS Ning for avenging her great grievance and taking over Ning Corporation. A friend smiled and toasted with me, then corrected themselves. "No, it's Chairwoman Ning." I drank it all in one go, gently stroking the jade on my neck, and immediately felt filled with energy. Outside the window, the moon rises. The moonlight pours down like a waterfall, guiding the traveler forward.